Welcome back, everybody. You got Will and I, man, here from the Block Runner. And today we're going to be talking about one of the projects that we think are going to have a huge application in the blockchain space called Ureeqa.
Yeah,
So,
man. Yeah, it's been a while, I think, since we've done like a gem reveal on the channel.
yeah,
I think it's about time we give you guys one. In our minds, this one's clearly a gem just because, like, again, we're developing a platform within the crypto ecosystem, the NFT ecosystem. So whenever you do things like this, you expose yourself to problems, right? And dilemmas
yeah,
quite frequently.
yeah, for sure.
So part of your responsibility as a developer is to figure out solutions to these problems and these dilemmas. Every now and then we come across a project who's already ahead of the game, right? Like they've identified this problem a couple of years ago. They started executing on it. Here we are. Ureeqa is at this point. They spent the last couple of years figuring out solutions to this problem we're about to talk about. So
Yeah. And so Chainlink figured out a problem. They solved it a while back, 2017. Same thing
yeah,
with the graph. And all
yeah,
these are developer centered projects. And
that's right.
if you look at these developer centric projects, they're multi-billion-dollar projects now.
Mm,
So, and Eureka is in a similar format, but it's not so much developer focused as it is creator focused. So
mm.
we're talking about creators from NFTs, from art to 3D creations, games, all kinds of things. So let's talk about Eureka. So let's break down. First of all, we got to talk about market cap, $13 million. Is that big or small to you, Iman?
In today's day and age, like this is smaller than micro. You can't get much better than this.
Yeah.
As far as like looking for a market cap within this range and identifying, like some kind of first mover
Mm,
components to it.
yeah.
All these nice little characteristics, right, that you like to see in projects. Like there's some opportunity here.
Yeah, and according to CoinGecko, the coin launched very recently. So this is still so this project's they've been working on this for a good couple of years. But the token just recently launched, and let's just jump into the website here. So what is Eureka? So Eureka is focused on protecting the individual creator from copyright infringement, from creations of 3D objects to art to all kinds of like blockchain enabled content. And so they have an entire platform, a decentralized platform, where you have creators minting what they're calling a creator NFT. This is a concept that we actually thought of way before we even heard of Eureka for our own platform. And it was one where a creator, let's say, builds a house right in Decentraland and makes 10 mints of these things, and let's assume that this house sells out, all 10 are sent out, but there isn't anything tying those houses to the actual creator. And so we thought, I was like, well, what if we just minted an individual single NFT that represents the creation of these houses and tie that to the actual creator? So then we spawned this idea of a creator NFT. So the problem with that is you're we don't have any means of enforcing any infringement, right? It's too big of a problem for us as a platform to kind of solve. So that's what Eureka solves. They have like a framework, a legal framework to go after these infringers. So if you're a creator and you've minted a Eureka NFT that represents your creation, like this individual that created a house, then you have like public verifiable protection against anyone who infringes on your creation, which is potentially copying your creation of the house. So yeah, we think Eureka's solving a huge problem, and it adds a huge value add to our creator base.
Yeah, and it's in line with what we've already seen from other like I guess like gig ecosystems like the graph, like Chainlink, where it's an entire network of participants, right? It's a multi-actor system in order to like maintain it, right? Because if you want to decentralize, like there's obvious centralized solutions to these problems, right? You can go to like an IP law firm right now,
Mm-hmm.
draw up whatever it is these IP agreements. But the idea is to get those same results, that same impact and effectiveness from like your IP protection, but in a decentralized way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that you're incentivizing people within this network to identify people who are infringing on these agreements, right?
Right.
Like oracles kind of do similar type of gig work, right? Like they're out there in the world looking for the most reliable sources of data, right, to bring on chain or whatever, so
Right.
that these developers can use this data for their applications. So it's very cool in that sense. Like they figured out a way how to tokenize all of this, the legalities that is necessary, and it's largely missing from the NFT market, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
So
we've said in our past videos, like the NFT market's kind of like in a reset point, right? Like we've already experienced a huge boom, a huge mania.
mhm.
Everybody's interested, right? Everybody wants to make their own NFTs. Everybody wants to make a new platform.
Yeah, we got Tom Brady, we got Snoop Dogg getting into NFTs.
Yeah, but the majority of them don't realize like how wild west it is. There's no protection for anything. It's not the world that they're used to, right? These
Yeah.
influencers, they come from a heavily regulated, heavily guarded,
Established.
yeah, with tons of standards, tons of laws, all this shit, tons of ways to collect on your IP infringement.
Yeah.
So these things are missing. These components are missing to the decentralized ecosystem of NFTs. So I think that's where we have to come up, like as a sector, as an industry, figuring out what these standard solutions should be, so that we can integrate them into our platforms and like service our creators, all this stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
And ultimately, I think there's there's different sets of markets for something like this. Like there's a market for having creators actually wanting to protect their IP, their creations, right? But there's also a market where it may not matter if people copy, and maybe that's the intended goal, is to copy and remix a creation. And so I mean, the world is big, and this services a huge part of the world where people do care about their IP. And if you can protect your IP on the blockchain and have a company that services that as a service, then I mean, it's up to the creator to decide. Is like, yeah, my IP, my brand, I want to protect my brand, and so I would go ahead and mint, a Ureeqa NFT token that represents my creations. And I believe, I think we should talk to these guys, man. Actually, we should
Yeah.
talk to them, and we should hopefully their technology is composable, and we can just add that tech into our platform, and then give the creators an option to say, if you care about your IP, you can mint this NFT if you want, and pay the included fees for that, right? But it's ultimately up to the creator and what kind of brand that they want to establish. Because there's a lot of people who are anonymous, and even then, even if you're anonymous, you can still protect your IP. But in some cases, it may not be important for them. But at
Even
least,
then, in our case, I think clearly I see like an application for this for even creators to leverage their IP to channel more revenue opportunities, in the sense, part of the Ureeqa ecosystem is like you with these IP NFTs, you'll now be able to license this to other creators who want to leverage whatever brand or IP you've created for yourself, right?
mm-hmm.
So in our marketplace environment, you could have one, let's say Ethermon, who has this huge brand IP.
Mm-hmm.
People might want people have done this in the past, by the way, where they've leveraged that already existing brand, created third-party products, listed them on our marketplace. People bought them, they enjoyed them, they deployed them, whatever. But as of right now, it's kind of just like an honor system, right?
Yeah.
There's no actual agreement here. There's no revenue split happening. There's none of that. So Ureeqa, I think, is going to provide, not just for us, but for all marketplaces out there in the crypto ecosystem, and infrastructure for like these kind of agreements that happen between different creators within the same ecosystem.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. I think you're right. I mean, we saw that firsthand. We had Ethermon, a huge IP, come onto our platform and sell a bunch of their content, and then we had the community want to add to that ecosystem and make Ethermon third-party content as well, and that sold. But there, like you were saying, that there wasn't an agreement, like an established agreement. But if we implement Ureeqa on our platform, there could be formal agreements like, hey, I want to make something for the Ethermon ecosystem. And and if Ethermon greenlights it, like whitelists me, then I can create that content and share the revenue with Ethermon, because you're leveraging their IP, their brand that they spend, millions of dollars on.
Mhm.
And so it only makes sense that if they license that IP to you, it only makes sense to compensate them when you sell your content based on their IP.
Yeah.
So
So you're getting firsthand, like you guys watching this are getting firsthand like insight into what we're thinking, right? So we're building a platform, NFT ecosystem. Now, obviously, there's a ton of huge players out there like OpenSea, Rarible, whatever. They're having the exact same conversations we're having. Like we don't think any differently than them.
yeah,
So that's kind of gives you like an insight into how early you are with this particular project, right? If we're identifying like its practical uses for our ecosystem, the rest of them will too.
absolutely.
Right? It's just a matter of time, you
Yeah.
know.
I mean,
Yeah.
the entire planet is governed by creators, right? You create a business, you create a widget, you create an app. Like everything is governed by creators. And like obviously in the tech world, pretty much code is pretty much eating every single industry alive, right? So one of the things they protect is source code, right? Just like for our platform, we would be protecting the source code of the creators that make content.
Mhm.
And then on top of that, there's an ecosystem within Ureeqa that service providers like MetaZone could leverage. Like, for example, there's a validator ecosystem. So they work to ensure that creative content on the Ureeqa platform is original. So validators earn the Ureeqa token for their work and are assigned a Ureeqa validator rating based on their work. So their job is to see new creations being submitted, look out on the internet to see if there's any copies of it. And if there is, they go and make sure that you actually created the original, or you find a bunch of infringers, and then Ureeqa platform goes after the infringers and make the original creator whole.
Mhm.
So, like I said before, they mint an NFT based on this concept, and then that NFT gets issued to the creator itself. And then they have like added services, so the Ureeqa Premium Protection Collection, and then the protectors are a distributed group of users working to identify unauthorized use of creators' work across the world. The protector adds value by submitting evidence of infringements to creators who can then remedy the situation through a demand letter or otherwise. So all these services hopefully are in a sense composable with other platforms that we can just add this functionality into our platform rather than like sending them a creator out to a different website and log in and do all that stuff. It's just easier just to combine everything in a single location. But all the functionality is there, and if this is important for us, you can imagine this will be important for any creator platform that's out there, like OpenSea and Rarible. All right, let's take a look at their roadmap. And like I said, they just exit stealth mode in 2021, and they have a couple of line items here: launch closed beta MVP, and they have a couple of partners, universities, and a public MVP launch is going to be happening in the second quarter. So we're at the start of the second quarter, so we're going to see a bunch of movement from this project and the team here, legal expertise. We got the CEO. He went to the same university that Vitalik went to, right?
Yeah, that's a fun fact.
Yeah.
University of Waterloo. Yeah,
Yeah.
when I saw that, I made that connection immediately. I don't know why. I remember from like these early Vitalik interviews back in the day, like him
Yeah.
talking about his old university days while he was playing World of Warcraft and shit like that. That's how I got into cryptocurrency, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Not because he went to University of Waterloo, but because
World of Warcraft.
Blizzard Entertainment like totally like fucked his game experience. It was like, you know what? Like I want to crush Blizzard and create a decentralized world.
Yeah.
And here we are, like 8 years later, or whatever it is. What was it? Yeah, like 7 years later or something.
Yeah.
Actually building out this decentralized world, So
And
crazy how things can happen.
and dominating. Thank you, Blizzard. All right. So then their Twitter account, 5,000 followers, still early days. Like I said, they're solving a problem that most people aren't aware of. And
and that's usually the case. It's hard to make a prediction on the price for these kind of projects, right? Because you never really know how long it's going to take for the market to kind of catch on to something like this. Just like the graph, right? We talked so good about the graph. Why hasn't it done anything the last like month or two?
Yeah.
What is happening? Why isn't the market just like totally FOMOing into this Why haven't they realized like this is a critical component to all of DeFi, all of everything, right? Everything decentralized. I don't know. To be completely honest, I don't know what it takes for that kind of like market awareness to be achieved. Sometimes it just seems to happen at some point, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's 100% dependent on like the individual marketing efforts of these projects. Like at some point they just feel like, okay, the time is hot, let's start shilling. Or it's just, I don't know, it's just a timing thing, I guess. Like whenever the sectors, maybe like some obvious problems have to happen on like the existing NFT platforms, like clear IP theft type scenarios, like some creator gets sued
Yeah.
for tens of millions of dollars because they stole somebody's IP or something like that, right?
Yeah, sure, sure.
So maybe these headline grabbers, so that now the whole market is gonna be like, oh man, this is a clear issue, right? Like these are the things that are preventing Disney and Pokemon and all these big IPs from participating, right? Because they're afraid of this environment where it's totally unregulated, totally not protected. But once this dilemma, I guess, becomes like a main part of the narrative in the NFT space, that's whenever Ureeqa, like I think, like pulls that lever. It's like, all right, boys, time to market.
Yeah.
Time to let our presence be known. Like we're here to solve these problems. You know what I mean?
Right, right. So I don't know if these guys got taken down, man. But they used to have thick Pokemon on OpenSea, and now they're.
Oh, they got taken down?
I think they did. No, that was a different one. No, this is it. This is thick Pokemon.
Yeah. So this is a good example, man. Clearly, this is these guys are taking
Liberties.
liberties of an already established IP and brand, right?
Yeah.
I mean, pretty close. I mean, I guess.
I mean, it's almost identical. You would easily confuse this as to the real Pokemon game,
except for the big donks, I guess. Big boys.
Yeah. Look at Charizard, dude. 20 ETH.
Yeah, man, these things are selling, like, and what, as of right now, OpenSea, I mean, they don't really, I mean, I guess they do have control. Like if for whatever reason they felt like this is a danger to our platform, right? Like letting this slide.
Yeah.
I guess they could just decide, to remove it. But as of right now, that's not the case. So these are the things that, like I'm saying, like Pokemon, the Pokemon company might be seeing these things, be like, man, like we don't like what we see. Maybe they want to know, they want assurance. As soon as we open our OpenSea storefront, we got to have some type of agreement infrastructure. So if somebody wants to make thick Pokemons, we're gonna let them do that, but they're gonna have to channel that revenue directly to us, all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Or if they completely don't, they just ignore our IP rights, like we got to have some kind of recourse. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So yeah, this is just a good example of like that IP theft, like you were saying. But I mean, is this IP theft or is this a remix of?
Yeah, maybe not.
Maybe it's not IP theft. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, it's very subjective, right? I mean, at the end of the day, though, it's up to the IP holder to make that judgment call, right? I mean, at any moment they could just be like, they got billions of dollars and lawyers lined up to make that case, that argument.
Yeah.
If they really wanted to. But I think obviously in this scenario, this creator isn't making enough noise to really warrant that type of response, right?
Right.
Like, now, if all of a sudden this became this cultural phenomenon, they're selling millions of dollars a week, it might be a different story.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we'll pose a question up to you guys. Do you think this project is valuable in the larger cryptocurrency ecosystem sense? Let us know in the comments below. Like and subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at The Block Runner and also at MetaZone.io, and we will catch you in the next video.
Peace out.